Hello guys, good evening. My name is Kevin and today I will be discussing to you what are Java arrays and what are they useful for. We will also be breaking down the code that you have or you are seeing in your screens. So, without further ado, let us start. So, just ignore the public class motivation here, the name of my class. So, because I really tried to grab my motivation last night, but procrastination got the best out of me. So, anyways, let's start. So, let's start with a question. What are Java arrays? Well, Java arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable. Instead of declaring separate value, instead of declaring separate uh, variables for each value. So, by getting the idea, Java arrays can be useful, really useful for records, like employee records, student records that can store all information of each individual, or you can just make a small mini record of a bunch of information that you want to keep track of, like a notepad, but it's really centered on records rather. So proceeding on, we have the first line on line 7. We call this multi-dimensional arrays or 2D arrays, 2D dimensional arrays. So in this case, we started off with declaring our variable a, new int, and then our rows and columns. So it's important to take note that the first bracket is our rows, and the second bracket, which is this, is our columns. In this case, I would like to have 10 rows and 10 columns to make it simple, but it's really up to you if you want to type like 500 rows, 500 columns, but yeah, you can do that, there's no limit. But in this case, let's just keep it simple and stick with 10. Now, proceeding on, let us break down the rest of the code. So, how does the program know when to stop at 10? Well, with the help of looping statements, in this case, we are looking at the for loop, which is the basic kind of loop. It is pretty much useful for shorter codes, but if it gets to longer codes, be it might get not practical to use. But in this case, since it's really short, our code is really short, let us talk with the for loop. Anyways, proceeding on, here we declared our variable I and then equals 0. And here's my takeaway. It's important to take note that the program, in terms of counting, 0 will technically be 1, and then 1 will technically be 2, 2 will be technically be 3, 3 will be 4, 4 will be 5, and so on. And that's how the program thinks in terms of counting. Next, we have I is less than 10. It's really important to know that uh, in this case, if the program knows that I is no longer less than 10, it will stop counting. As long as the I is less than 10, the program will keep on counting. This is why I++ gets its role as increment. So as long as I is less than 10, it will add up until it's no longer less than 10. And this applies for the same thing as our second for loop. Both of these are related because of our rows and columns. It's the same thing, just different variable names. In this case, the variable declared here is named j. Here it's I. And you can name it anything really, but in this case, the I and j are pretty practical in this case. Next up, we have system.out.printf. And this code is important when it comes to formatting the formatting of our output. So let us run our program so you can see. Here, the two lines of code, this and this, are the reason why our program looks like this. So, in this case, Number 2 here also plays an important role on why our columns are spaced out like this. As you can see, uh, they are spaced out by 1, 2, 3, or 2 times to make it simple for you to understand. So let's just say they're spaced out twice per column. Each column is spaced out twice. But let's say I'll change it to 3, to number 3. I want to change it to 3. Let's see what will happen. Here, our spaces for each column got wider. Now they are spaced out by 3 times. Anyways, next up is a system that print ln. So what happens if I remove system.out.println? What will happen to our output? Let's see and rerun the code. Here we go. As you can see, our output became one long row, and I don't want that. And I can assure you, you know yourself that this is not a record. So it's really important to know, and it's my other takeaway, to not forget system.out.println or just type SOUT to make it faster for you. So let us rerun the code and go back to our old output. So this time let us verify if it's really 10. So let's count from our rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's verified. And for our columns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Verified. We have 10 rows and 10 columns, which means the program did a great job. So now, proceeding on, let us go back to our arrays. So let's say, what if I want to add something in our mini checklist that we have right here? Well, before that, I just want to advise that if you want to start or if you want to add something on our mini checklist, just be advised, I suggest you start typing the code right below where we started our Java arrays, right below, so you won't get confused and you will know where they are, because it's really messy and unorganized if they will be everywhere. And personally, I wouldn't want that. So going back to what we're supposed to do, or what I will be showing you, let's say I want to add a number. Here we go. And here we go, we will be going back to what I've told you guys earlier of how the program thinks in terms of counting, like 0 will be equal to 1, 1 is 2, 2 is 3, and so on. So in this case, within the two brackets, which you also call index arrays, all index arrays starts with 0, so just be advised that index arrays will be starting at 0. Sorry, I had to repeat it twice, but it's important to take note so you won't get confused in the future. So 0 in this case, and then let's say I want to add number 1. Now let's run the program and let's see what will happen. There we go. You can see number 1 at the first row and at the first column at the output, in the output. And let's say, what if I want to put number 1 at the very last row? Will I put number 10? Let's see what will happen if I put number 10. We will have an error because number 10 will technically be 11 in terms of counting. So it's really important to remember. And we do not have 11 rows and 11 columns, so we cannot accommodate 1 in this case. So we will have to resort to number 9. So if we type 9, our number 1 would end up at the last column of our program. This will apply for everything else. As long as it's within the range of 10 rows and 10 columns, you can place any number anywhere as long as it's within the range. So if you're going to be adding a lot of numbers or a lot of things in your record, you should know that you have a lot of space to accommodate each information regarding something. So, well, in this case, I will only limit it to 10, so it will remain simple. So anyways, I hope you did understand this simple short discussion about Java arrays, and I I hope you know that how useful Java arrays are for making records. And going back to what I told you earlier, let's describe what Java arrays are again. So once again, they are used to store multiple variables, multiple values in a single variable instead of declaring separate variables for each value. You get the idea. Right, that's all. Thank you guys for your time and have a great day. Bye.